honored today to introduce the program, the East Tennessee Foundation. The East Tennessee Foundation was established in 1986 with $625,000 in assets. And here recently, the asset level is a little over 600 million. So quite a bit of growth. The organization serves 25 counties, has 500 charitable funds and 8 supporting organizations. It's an outstanding organization that also holds the assets of the Rotary Foundation of Knoxville, its assets. We have 2 of the leaders here today, our own member, Keith Barber, and Katharine Killen. Keith is the president and CEO. He's been in place since 2023. Previously, he served as a vice chancellor of institutional advancement for the University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture and the UT Foundation for 10 years. He was reared in North Carolina, rural North Carolina, as he points out, and earned his BS and master's at Appalachian State, and his Doctor of Education and Leadership at Valdosta State. He's married and has 3 daughters and a son. Katharine Killen joined the East Tennessee Foundation shortly thereafter. She has quite a few years of experience, more than 20 years of experience across public, private, and nonprofit sector. She's Vice President of Programs and Chief Operations Officer. And she oversees the day-to-day operations of the organization and direct leadership for the programmatic and community impact activities of the team. She is a Knoxville native. She holds her degree from the University of Tennessee and is married and has a son. I've often said that our members provide probably our best programs. And so I'm real tickled today to introduce the East Tennessee Foundation and specifically Keith and Katharine. Please give them a warm welcome.
Sam, I had 3 pages of notes and he just covered everything. I'll start taking questions and we'll go from there. It's great to be with you and standing here on this side of the podium in addition to my normal spot out there listening. And I want to just recognize a couple other folks who are with us from the organization today too, the East Tennessee Foundation. Ashley Copeland was introduced earlier. And Ashley is our marketing and community relations specialist and directs all that traffic. And it's been pretty busy in the last month or so since Hurricane Helene. She can talk about that if she needs to. And then Morgan Vance is a director with the Pat Summit Foundation Fund, which is one of our 550 or so funds that we have under management. And so Sam did hit several high points. And let me tell you a couple other things though. We look at this as an organization that serves our community, and that community is defined as the 25 counties in Northeast Tennessee. Here go the East Tennessee Foundation. So within that, the structure was made back in the late 80s when the organization was established to have a portion of that so that we are literally located in or can be located in every county of Northeast Tennessee. And so we have those, what we call affiliate funds. So we have volunteers who are located there and they do 3 things for us. And I think they're our secret sauce. We listen to them so we know what the needs are. We know who the donors might be. And we learn from them in the same manner. And then we lean into them. And in order to grant monies back out, and Katharine's going to talk about the granting part of that. But there are 3 things that we do, and you know, Sam alluded to the fact that I was born in rural North Carolina. I say that I'm a farm boy from a one-stop light town, still trying to figure out what to do in this great big world. And I've been blessed to be able to be in nonprofits my entire career. Most of that, as Sam noted, in higher education. But coming to the East Tennessee Foundation a year and a half ago was a special joy because number one, after I retired from UT, I got out of painting the house. I never got better at painting. I always got better at painting the house, but I never got faster. So if you want me to paint your house, I can do that on the side. You'll be charged by the hour. But nonetheless, I came to East Tennessee Foundation, and really it was eye-opening for me because of the work that's being done, not only in our office, but throughout the region and quite literally around the world with some of our programs. But within the scope of the 25 county region, we are learning what they are doing so that they can support their own communities. And I think, again, we refer to that as our secret sauce. We've had some expertise in the area of hurricane or disaster relief, and most recently hurricane relief. Katharine's going to talk a little bit more about that, what we're doing in that space. But it's been a really interesting and important component to see the outpouring, not only from the folks in Knoxville, but throughout the community in East Tennessee. That being said, we do three things, and I'll simplify reflective of what we do. We accept gifts, donations. We're a 501c3, 40-year-old charity recognized by the IRS and nationally accredited. So we accept gifts. We steward those gifts in the marketplace in order to grow them, in order to have more impact later on, and then we grant those monies back out. So simple. We get, we steward, and we give. And we have our organizational structure reflects that, and so that we try to be top of the ladder on all of that. And so we refer to ourselves as the philanthropic specialist of East Tennessee, and we think we are. And many of you out here today are either fund holders or investors in East Tennessee Foundation, or you're beneficiaries of East Tennessee Foundation, and we appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Katharine, and then I'll come back up and wrap up with a couple of words too. So thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm so tickled to be here with you. Keith asked me to talk a little bit about our grant making, which is the best part of what we do. I might be a little bit biased in that because I have the privilege of working very closely with the grant making team. And I was thinking about stories. I was thinking about what we've done in the past 40 years. And I know there are many people in this room who could probably tell a far better story about East Tennessee Foundation than I could, whether it's David, Towns, Frank, board members, grantees, but humor me if you will. So, and we'll talk a little bit of numbers too, just to put some color on that. And then of course, we'll talk a little bit about Neighbor to Neighbor, our disaster relief fund. So we have different types of funds. If you're not familiar with this, different types of charitable funds. Sometimes they're established by individuals, sometimes they're established by families, corporations, even the nonprofits themselves. And so the type of fund dictates the grant making. Sometimes we do competitive grant making, where our team will stand up a competitive process and we use volunteers to help allocate that. Could be for a specific area like the arts, or a specific community like Keith referred to. Sometimes our funds are dedicated to funding specific nonprofits for their own benefit. So while the mode, strategy, frequency, and tenor of the grant making differs based on the fund type, there's one commonality, and that is the philanthropic spirit and the generosity of East Tennesseans. I thought about, what if I just took a 2-mile radius from this place and thought, what are the grantees in that space? And there were about 40 that popped up out of the gate. Many of them are in this room that we work with. Of course, the University of Tennessee is about 1.7 miles from this room, if you really wanted to know. But the Museum of Art, the YWCA, the YMCA, Bistro, because I like to eat next to it, the Bijou, the Tennessee Theater, and so many more. The suffrage monuments in downtown, we're a part of helping make that happen, which is especially, I think, appropriate for today. But across all of that, across nearly 40 years, it's really challenging to really highlight easily the impact that the East Tennessee Foundation has made. So often, we have given the credit, and appropriately so, to the donors and to the grantees that are doing the work. And it has been our honor to be in the background and to be that bridge. And it has been a delight to join that team and learn from them. Just to put a little information on it, in 2023, we made 1,400 grants totaling about $28 million. We also had $1 million in scholarships for about 119 kids, or I shouldn't say that, students, excuse me. Some of them are adults, and all across the region. So this working with individuals, families, nonprofits, organizations, corporations, this collective impact work, where we're being a bit of a bridge for the community, or as Keith said, a philanthropic advisor, is one of the things that makes community foundations so incredibly special. They are created by the people of the community they serve, for the people of the communities they serve. And I think one of the very best examples of that is our Neighbor to Neighbor Disaster Relief Fund. As many of you know, we had this fund. It was created back in 2011. We've used it for flooding in this area. We've used it during the Gatlinburg wildfires. We stood it back up again during COVID, and we reactivated it obviously after Hurricane Helene. This fund is exclusively being used to support the 8 counties in Upper East Tennessee that have been devastated. And so we were able to do that quickly. The donations have been incredible and awe-inspiring. Again, there are some very large donations, but there's also a whole lot of donations for $20, $25, $50. And I think that really speaks to how incredible this community is, and beyond in their generosity. With this particular fund, we are focusing on long-term recovery. And the reason we're focusing on that is because when it comes to philanthropic disasters, that is one of the least funded strategies after a disaster. So we've learned from our national partners, other community foundations, our own experience in disaster, that this is really the area where we need to lean in and be there for the very long haul for these communities, because many of them, it's going to take years to build back. And we'll be there for that time. We've learned that there are 2 key things for this fund to keep in mind. The first is that recovery is best when it is organized by those who have survived. So local survivors coordinating their own local recovery. So that's where that network of partners and contacts across the region, especially in those communities, whether it's elected officials, nonprofit leaders, government leaders, houses of worship, all coming together, talking about how best to serve. The communities are unique. The disaster and the devastation is unique across the communities. But those 2 things, local people, and the second thing being a structure. And so we're looking for long-term recovery groups in each of those areas, that organized structure and staff to really be able to be there for the long haul in these communities, and to have groups and individuals who wake up every day thinking about how best to recover. So along with this line for this particular fund, we're, as I mentioned, adhering to best practice for disaster philanthropy. We're looking at priorities from our board and those areas. We're taking that feedback from these communities as well as local data to make some really specific grants now, but then also to position that funding for the long haul. The devastation is pretty dramatic in these areas, but it's going to take all of us working together. And that's one of the neat things about East Tennessee Foundation and community foundations is yes, these grant dollars are helpful and they're going to hopefully be tremendous support for these communities. But it's our ability to come together and to partner and say, okay, we can contribute this, and reach out to other donors, reach out to other partners about needs, and bring that all back together to have that collective impact. So I know that we've granted to many of the organizations in this room, and I'm tickled with that. And I think it's celebrating all of these tremendous grantees and all of this tremendous work and what we can do, because we will, and the Upper East Tennessee will recover from this, and we'll all be there along the way. So, thank you, guys. We'll turn it back over to Keith.
Katharine's right. We are doing that, and the Neighbor to Neighbor Fund, the Disaster Relief Fund, is one of those that comes and it goes. And I've told Josh, I've done one interview, I've done how many actually, a few dozen since the 27th of September, and I've said to those folks, look, we're here for the long haul, but I will do your interview if you'll come back and ask me what we did 3 months from now. Because we don't want that to go away, specifically with this neighbor-to-neighbor effort with disaster relief. Specifically, is what Katharine has said, because we have found through our research and observation and baseline data collection from face-to-face interviews, that when the media goes away, plus there's other things to cover, and when the thoughts are moved elsewhere, then what are these communities left with? And we have pledged that we'd be left with East Tennessee Foundation support. Not our support, we're just the grantors of it, but your support, and we appreciate that, and we can talk more about that if you'd like to. So we did talk about, Sam spoke about different types of funds we have. We spoke about the type of giving, assets we can receive, cash, IRA transfers, stock, you name it. We, as a 501c3, we can accept all of those types. This time of year, it's especially benefiting for us to be able to stand here and talk to you, because usually this time through the end of the year is the giving season, if you will. Philanthropy Day is coming up on Thursday. One of our own will be honored there.
Oh, hi, I just realized my mobile order has the wrong address on it.
Go to lunch in city towns, and she's probably gonna get me for saying that, but Philanthropy Day is another time that we think about giving, but as the Rotary Club thinks about it and the foundation think about it, as partners, and what kind of impacts can we make? And we try to look at the tip of the spear being our impacts, not just our, the funds in, but the impacts going out. And so, and we'll give you an update on the Rotary Club of Knoxville's Foundation Scholarship Fund. And I checked again this morning, and we're at about just under 1.7 million in holdings there. And that's quite amazing and quite an accomplishment for Rotary Club. The opportunity for us to serve with you, and we always say that, let's serve together, is amazing. And whether you're a nonprofit or whether you're a donor or whether you might be both, we are here to serve East Tennessee, and we do that through, again, through a trust-based philanthropy that those who came before me, those who came before our team, and those who came as board members before our current board, and our current board and current staff, have built that trust for almost 40 years now, and we appreciate that, and we'll try to build on to that heritage for going forward. So let me pause there, Mr. President, see if there are any questions. We'll be glad to entertain any of those. And I've already warned a couple people, not partners. David Martin. Yes.
So primarily, what are the funds in the neighborhood disaster fund going to in terms of healing Aberdeen?
As Katharine said, we've sort of two different sets, right? It's one big fund. We've granted out about $300,000 already, and those have gone to demographics of all ages. So some specific to elderly, some specific to kids, individuals with disabilities, animal shelters. Think about it, those are important in this time of need too. And then housing. So a whole conglomerate stuff that we talk about in the crisis mode. But the long-term mode, we have recently set up a fund that they're going to replace 100 homes that were either completely destroyed or damaged. And that's initiated by a couple who originally from Carter County, and we're working with them to make that happen. And then, as Katharine mentioned, one of the things that we think are important is to have somebody, someone who experienced this on the ground that are working. I was with one of my other colleagues last week in Irvine, and I visited them, and they had these volunteers coordinating other volunteers, coordinating the food distribution, coordinating the lunches, coordinating almost everything. I said, don't you have a normal job? And they said, of course we do. We, just generously, our organizations have allowed us to do this. And it was an aha moment. It was like, what if we paid for someone to come in and do that for a period of time? What if we took these funds and helped them coordinate that? Because at some point, these volunteers are going to need to go back to work for their own livelihood, right? So we're looking at it from that kind of strategic move. There aren't a whole lot of organizations, and I know lots of you in here have contributed or are working with organizations that are doing stuff with the crisis, but there aren't a whole lot of organizations, nonprofits like East Tennessee Foundation, who can hold back a little bit and then be more precise going forward. And so I was with in that same county last week, in Cook County, and with their economic development staff. And I said, what do you think about that idea, about a position? And this person, was wiping tears from his eyes. Said, we can't believe you think like that. We can't believe you think that far ahead, that strategic. But like, that's the answer. So we'll look at things like that long term. I had been in touch, and our team has been in touch with numerous people, not only our volunteers through our network that we talked about, but also elected officials and other officials in the cities and the communities who were hit the hardest in the hurricane. And, even as recently as 2 weeks ago, they're telling us, we don't know what we need. We have no idea. We're still shoveling mud. We're still looking for bodies. I mean, that's serious stuff. So who are we to rush in and try to force feed something? Let's give them a little time. Again, and we did this on research based. Let's give them a little time. Let them help figure it out. Let them be part of the solution versus us coming in and say, here's a check. So let's be a part of the investment into the community. Great question.
And I don't know if you know the answer to this, but are they finding in these areas, since so much of it was flooding, some of these houses and stuff, are they gonna be eligible for some insurance kind of benefits, or is it gonna take kind of the nonprofit community coming in to salvage houses?
Ask Virginia. Virginia's asked if there's going to be insurance benefits to these folks who have been hit the hardest with their homes and stuff. I have no clue about that. I've heard various stories. I think many of them are considered flooded. This is what we've heard in the communities, and most of them did not have flood insurance.
Right.
I don't think that's news to any of us, but who would have thought, right? So I think they are relying a lot on the nonprofits. Again, East Tennessee Foundation can be one of those leading nonprofits to make that happen in the long term. But they're going to work through all that stuff. And if you think about a smaller community, they have jobs already, and those jobs are continuing. So how can they bring in somebody else or add to somebody's plate? That's where I think, as I described, we can be of assistance and grant out, maybe a position to each community, or maybe the eight things they can. I knew I'd get a tough one. Here it comes.
No, this is a comment, a pleasant, congratulatory, fabulous
Oh, you
comment.
might win.
Dinner will be expected.
Uh,
I'm just gonna say, this is, I think, the biggest testament to the value of a community foundation. Every other nonprofit has specific work they have to do. And what the East Tennessee Foundation has been able to do for this community for the last 40 years is when there is something that needs special attention and it doesn't fall in anybody's wheelhouse, the foundation is the organization that steps up and becomes the keeper of the donations while people figure out what it is that needs to be done. I mean, I saw it firsthand 25 years ago when this regional strategic planning thing came up. People thought we need to do it. People wanted to contribute to it. But there was no thing. So the foundation helped make that come to life. And you've done that on lots of other things. And I think quietly a foundation goes about doing its business. But it's in these times that you see the power of a community foundation, and we're lucky we have one.
Thank you, Lynn. I hope everybody heard that. And David, Sam, Mary. I owe Lynn a box of cookies.
It's a lived experience kind of thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Lynn. In all seriousness, she's absolutely right. The East Tennessee Foundation, because of its 40 years of trust-based philanthropy and being here and understanding, and quite frankly, because of the structure we have, where we do listen, learn from, and lean into our communities, it's hard to go wrong there. Lynn told me a story just last week about a young Girl Scout in one of the counties, devastated counties, who they called the family, if I got this right, Lynn, and told the family, get out now. You have no time. Grab anything you can, whatever is most important to you, and leave. Guess what this little girl took? Her Girl Scout uniform. And talk about moving. So that's the personal experience that's happening, and we're glad to be a part of, hopefully, the solution for these communities. One more question?
How many neighbors do they have funded?
We're just shy of $4 million, and which is incredible. Incredible testament to those, and we have had more than 6,000 contributions, Sandy, transactions, and we normally do about 30 a week. 6,000 in 4 weeks.
Thanks for the update on our Knoxville Foundation.
Yes.
It's not gonna stop me from asking you for more money.
Fantastic presentation, and just like Brent said, I do want to reiterate the fact that the foundation is our club's foundation. It is the Rotary Foundation.